A forgotten orchard may be the last vault of a pioneer's survival genetics. Deep inside neglected 19th century graveyards, fruit trees still cling to life beside weathered headstones. These are not decorative plantings. In many rural cemeteries across the United States and Britain, pioneers planted apple, pear, and plum trees as living memorials and practical food reserves. Over time, commercial agriculture narrowed fruit diversity to just a handful of supermarket varieties. Thousands of heritage cultivars vanished from catalogues, orchards, and honestly, from memory. Yet some of their last living representatives still stand in abandoned burial grounds, their roots intertwined with history. If those trees die without being grafted, their unique genetics disappear permanently. This is not romantic nostalgia, it is agricultural urgency. Heirloom fruit once formed the backbone of rural resilience. Before refrigeration and global shipping, communities depended on locally adapted fruit. Apples were not bred for uniform sweetness or glossy skins. They were selected for storage life, cider production, disease resistance, and calorie density. A single county might support dozens of named varieties suited to its soil and climate. Organizations such as the Seed Savers Exchange have documented thousands of lost or endangered cultivars, while the USDA maintains national germplasm repositories to preserve agricultural biodiversity. Even so, many regional varieties never made it into formal collections. When small farms disappeared, so did their orchards. Graveyards, often protected from development, became accidental conservation sites. For a history enthusiast, this reframes cemeteries as genetic archives. Each old tree may represent a cultivar bred for hardiness during droughts, resistance to regional pests, or exceptional caloric yield, traits increasingly valuable in an era of climate instability. The mystery deepens when commercial extinction does not mean biological extinction. A fruit variety is declared extinct when it disappears from nurseries and orchards in active cultivation. Yet apple trees can survive for over a century. Even when hollowed by age, they may still produce viable scion wood. That means a so-called extinct cultivar can persist quietly, unrecognized. So, fruit detective work has, really become a specialized field these days. Pomologists, that's fruit scientists, they compare things like leaf shape, fruit characteristics, harvest timing, and even dig into old orchard records. These days, DNA fingerprinting helps with identification, but honestly, field observation is still absolutely crucial. The late apple hunter Tom Brown, for example, famously rediscovered dozens of Appalachian varieties that folks thought were lost forever. His work showed that oral history, cemetery mapping, and a lot of patient exploration can actually recover living genetics. If you want to give this a go yourself, start by researching historical maps and agricultural censuses from your own county. Local historical societies often keep plat maps that show farmsteads and burial grounds. Cross-reference these with old nursery catalogues to figure out which varieties used to be common in your area. Doing this narrows your search from just wandering around to actually carrying out a targeted investigation. Entering these so-called ghost orchards, well, it really does require a bit of preparation and, honestly, a lot of respect. Cemeteries are sacred spaces, and they're often protected by law. Before you collect any plant material, make sure you get written permission from the managing authority or the local municipality. Ethical recovery actually strengthens preservation efforts, but trespassing really undermines them. When you're evaluating an old fruit tree, you want to confirm it's a cultivated species, not just a wild relative. Apples, for example, have distinct leaf serration and branching patterns compared to crab apples. You should observe the fruit size, shape, and when it ripens. And well, document everything. Take photographs, measure the trunk circumference, and, if it's permitted, record the GPS coordinates. All this documentation, it really does contribute to broader conservation networks. Timing really does matter here. Scion wood is best collected during winter dormancy, which is usually between late January and early March, depending on your climate. You want to select pencil-thick, 1-year-old growth from the healthy parts of the tree. Cut cleanly with sterilized pruners and label your cuttings straight away. Then, store the wrapped scions in slightly damp paper, inside sealed bags, and keep them under refrigeration until grafting season comes around. Grafting is the act that rescues a variety from oblivion. An apple does not grow true from seed. Planting seeds from a historic tree will produce unpredictable offspring. The only way to preserve a cultivar is clonal propagation through grafting. For beginners, whip and tongue grafting offers high success when rootstock and scion are similar in diameter. You'll want to acquire disease-resistant rootstock suited to your region from reputable nurseries. In early spring, make matching angled cuts on both scion and rootstock. Create the tongue cuts to interlock them. Align cambium layers carefully and bind tightly with grafting tape. Seal exposed surfaces with grafting wax to prevent desiccation. Place the grafted tree in well-drained soil with full sun. Protect it from deer and rodents. Within weeks, successful grafts will push new growth. In this moment, a lineage possibly absent from commerce for a century returns to cultivation. For experienced growers, top-working mature trees can accelerate fruit production. By grafting scions onto established root systems, you can evaluate rediscovered varieties within a few seasons, rather than waiting years for young trees to mature. The survival implications extend beyond nostalgia. Heritage fruit often contains higher tannins, complex sugars, and storage resilience compared to modern dessert varieties. Some apples were bred specifically for winter keeping, lasting 6 months in root cellars. Others excelled in cider production, providing calorie-dense liquid nutrition through cold seasons. In preparedness terms, diversity is insurance. A single blight can devastate monocultures. The Irish potato famine remains a stark lesson in genetic uniformity. By cultivating multiple heirloom fruit varieties, especially those historically adapted to local stressors, you strengthen food security at a household and community level. Connecting with groups such as the North American Fruit Explorers can provide mentorship and identification assistance. Sharing scion wood responsibly expands the survival network of rare cultivars. These graveyard orchards are chapters of agricultural history waiting to be reopened. Every recovered scion is a bridge between pioneer resilience and modern uncertainty. These trees were planted by people who valued durability, yield, and adaptation over cosmetic perfection. Their choices were shaped by frost dates, soil chemistry, and hunger. If this kind of investigative history and practical preservation speaks to you, subscribe to the channel and share this episode with fellow history enthusiasts, orchardists, and preparedness-minded viewers. The next forgotten orchard might be closer than you think, and its survival may depend on someone willing to graft the past into the future.